All right. Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar. We're here going to be talking to you about the Ariba ITK, its end of support in 2023, and your options using the business technology platform Integration Suite on being able to move forward with a good solution. My name is Julio Navas. I'm the VP of Solution Management at Convergent IS. With me on this webinar is Jaime Gutierrez and Jason White. They are both, hello. And they're both from the SAP BTP Center of Excellence globally. Welcome, everyone, and let's go to the next slide. There we go. Over to you, Jaime and Jason.
Thank you, Julio. Jason?
Yeah, so welcome everybody to our webinar. We're going to walk through the agenda here in a second, but I just wanted to say this is a no marketing, no nonsense kind of a presentation. We're going to tell it like it is. We're going to give you some options on. Yeah, we're going to explain kind of like why the old Ariba ITK toolkit the tool was decommissioned for the end of 2023. We're going to talk about implementation options. We're going to give you pricing, and we're going to give you recommended approaches. So I'm not a big fan of marketing presentations, and so I hope that that you appreciate the directness with which we're going to present this material. So with that, and just to explain, I know acronyms are always kind of a mystery sometimes. So when we say BTP, we're really talking about what's called the SAP Business Technology Platform. Essentially, if you think about SAP, we have many applications, not just procurement, but HR and ERP, finance, manufacturing, digital supply chain. The business technology platform is really the glue that allows these applications to talk to one another. So we're going to dive deeper into this session. But I wanted to, just so you guys know what BTP meant, just kind of quickly explain that. Now, to the agenda here, we're going to talk about really briefly why is SAP discontinuing the Ariba ITK. And there's a lot of kind of sense in why that's happening. So we'll just point that out. Then we'll talk about migration options, and you'll hear this term, Integration Suite. And we're going to talk about those options and how, because we have, a handful of options that make a lot of sense. We're going to be prescriptive and give you our recommendations, but ultimately you're going to, be allowed to kind of choose where to go. And then, but we will talk about Integration Suite, which is part of the business technology platform. It's one of our tools. We're going to explain what that is after the options. So don't get frustrated if you're not sure what Integration Suite is. We'll go into that in a little bit more detail, and also a broader view of what BTP is. So we'll do a little bit of education there. And then we'll quickly go into some of your implementation options, which Julio is going to present from Convergent IS. And these are important because we're running out of time. 2023's feels like it's going quickly, and we want to make sure that you have options that you can use to make this migration and not have to worry so much. We'll then talk about the licensing options for Integration Suite, and then some links that you can use to get more information, whether it's technical information or pre-built content or any other information for this effort. So with that, let's go ahead and go to the next slide. Feel free to type your questions in the chat. We have a couple folks there that are Jaime and Dave Maloney are are helping with the chat. And I'm sure Julio probably will too. So just real quick, why are we moving away from the Ariba ITK? So the Ariba ITK toolkit was a almost like a desktop kind of Java application, which you could deploy to do file transfers and a handful of other tasks. So the reason why SAP, the Ariba product team, decided to discontinue it is that SAP, because we have so many different applications, and we have a integration strategy and an integration approach that's cloud-based, that you can deploy across many different hyperscalers. And it doesn't make sense for every product team to own a tool to do integration. It makes more sense to use an integration tool and have one product team that's in charge of integration across all of our applications. So essentially, that was the big reason why that we are moving off that. The other thing is, and Julio will talk about a little bit about this too later. Still too much of his thunder, but the existing Ariba toolkit really hasn't been modified or updated for many years. And so, I mean, yes, we've done like security fixes and things like that, but for the most part, it's been something that Ariba has been, wanting to move away from for quite some time. So just keep that in mind. And just, for your information, if you don't know, and these 3 questions here, this really comes from the FAQ that Ariba put out, the Ariba product team. And so you can click on that link there and actually see the full FAQ. But I just wanted to mention the reasons why. Now, let's see, make sure I covered everything I want to here. One of the reasons why we have Convergent IS on here, I just want to mention, is because their time is running out, that we do have an implementation partner here, Convergent IS, who has some packaged offerings. And I think this is very important. If you haven't budgeted resource time to take on a project to move your existing integrations over to the more best practices approach, which we're going to cover in the options in the next slide here. We do have an offering of a partner who's willing to come in and help you do that. So, okay, let's go ahead and go to the next slide. And Dave and Jaime and Julio, feel free to stop me if there's a question in the chat that you feel like we need to address right now. Just feel free to interrupt me, and we could do that if we need to verbally. So, all right, so let's talk about options. Left to right, let's look at option 1 here. So this first scenario is SAP ERP customers that also have Ariba. Now, SAP ERP actually comes with some pre-built integration utility that has a lot of the data mappings between SAP ERP and SAP Ariba. And if you're familiar with the old CIG Cloud Integration Gateway, and you can see the name kind of at the bottom there where the asterisk is, we have it's actually been renamed. At SAP, I kind of laugh at this long name, but we're going away, and I joke, but we're going away from 3-letter acronyms. We're actually going to use full sentences to describe our products from now on. It's actually called the SAP BTP Integration Suite Managed Gateway for Spend Management and SAP Business Network. But it's really the same thing as the CIG Cloud Integration Gateway. So just so we get our terminology right, if you're familiar with the old term. So that comes with SAP ERP, and essentially you can point that to your Ariba instance, and a lot of those data mappings for master data. I think there's like 270 different integrations, and that's kind of like free of charge. It's part of an integration package that's part of SAP ERP and SAP. Now, realistically, we don't really have any SAP ERP customers that only own one application. So Scenario one is kind of unrealistic because no SAP ERP and SAP Ariba customer only own those two solutions. They quite often own Fieldglass for contingent workforce. They own Concur for expense, travel and expense. They own SuccessFactors and a number of other applications. So really scenario one and scenario two is actually the more realistic scenario. So in this case, where you have multiple SAP applications plus SAP ERP, we recommend that customers who can use the old Cloud Integration Gateway also use SAP BTP Integration Suite Standard Edition, which we're going to cover in the licensing section what Standard Edition is. But essentially, Standard Edition is the full integration suite capabilities, and that's the most common scenario. So when we think about SAP ERP customers, we're really talking about scenario one and scenario two. And SAP Integration Suite, which is recognized by Gartner as a leader in integration. So this isn't some, just flimsy integration tool. We're really talking about something that's a hardened, it's used by many of our customers. In fact, we're going to talk about a customer story later. And it integrates with other applications. So we have many pre-built integration recipes and connectors for EDI. If you need to do EDI connections, and so you can we've actually seen customers implement Integration Suite to replace tools like Boomi and actually save quite a bit of money because Boomi is a very expensive integration tool. And so you can kill two birds with one stone by actually implementing Integration Suite in place of other integration tools. Now let's go to scenario three and talk about what if you have an environment where you have a non-SAP, so Oracle ERP, any other ERP that's not SAP, and Ariba. So that we call that a simple scenario. If you have a simple scenario, low volume, then we recommend SAP BTP Integration Suite, and we have this basic edition, which has a limited scope that's very similar to the scope of capabilities that the Ariba ITK has. And so if you're just doing basic file transfers between Ariba and your ERP system, and that's all you have to do, then you could go with Basic Edition, which is less expensive, but also is very restricted in the capabilities that are available there. So things like API management, things like open connectors are not part of that, but you can do the file transfers. And then there's some pre-built recipes, which I'm going to show you later, which allow you to integrate to other SAP applications. So scenario three could be a good option if you're not sure how your IT landscape is what it's going to be in the future. So what if in the future you decide to add SAP Concur or SAP Fieldglass to your procurement stack, or SAP HR SuccessFactors? Having Integration Suite already plugged in means that all you have to do is take advantage of those pre-built recipes, and you can quickly start integrating with these other applications that are SAP. And there's also non-SAP applications that we integrate with, and I'll show you those later. Now, if it's high volume and you want to take advantage of the open connectors and the API management, then actually scenario two would make more sense to invest into the Standard Edition. So that's all I'll say about that. Now we're going to walk through a decision tree here in just a second, but this is just kind of one way to look at it. And then the fourth option here is if you have an existing middleware application in place, then you could make those direct file transfers using your existing middleware from Oracle ERP or a non-SAP ERP to Ariba. And that's fine if you're not worried about future changes in your architecture, and you're not worried about, if you're going to get future SAP applications, then you can kind of do it there. But the great thing about SAP Integration Suite is that as changes are made to the SAP Ariba platform, whether it's document fields that are added to documents or things like that, SAP Integration Suite's going to have those changes available in more kind of a real-time fashion than maybe the third-party middleware tool. So really our best practice recommendation, just to sum this up, if you want to future-proof your integration investment and be ready for any future changes in your architecture, really number 2, Integration Suite Standard Edition is really the best option. And like I said, we're going to cover those licensing options later on. All right, so let's go to the next slide and let's talk just real quick. Now that we've kind of gotten familiar with the options, here's a decision tree that we've created to help navigate you through these options. It's just really just another way of looking at the same scenarios. So if we want to so here's the question, current Ariba deployment, we're looking to replace ITK and or build new integrations to other applications. Do you own or are you running SAP ERP integration today? So if yes, then if you remember, option 1 and option 2 actually go hand in hand, then we recommend the SAP BTP Integration Suite Standard Edition plus what was the old CIG Cloud Integration Gateway and is now SAP BTP Integration Suite Managed Gateway for Spend Management and Business Network. So that would be if you own SAP ERP and probably own other SAP applications. So Integration Suite's really the way to go for it. If you don't and you're running another ERP and need integration there, the next question you'd want to ask, do I want to use my existing middleware for file transfers, which is probably what you're doing today with the ITK. If yes, then you go down to your third-party middleware as an option. If no, then you want to ask the question, is my integration limited, scope, and my data volumes low? Then you can, we have this kind of more restricted but cheaper option with Integration Suite Basic Edition. Great, so that's the decision tree. Now let's kind of move into what Integration Suite is at a slightly more detailed level. We're not going to get into crazy detail, but specifically for procurement customers, I'm going to hand it over to Jaime to cover that and also a quick overview of the BTP Business Technology Platform. Jaime, you're on mute.
Hey, thank you, Jason. So certainly, I think that you explained very well what the Integration Suite is. Integration Suite is one of almost 100 cloud-based services provided by SAP as part of the SAP Business Technology Platform. As mentioned before by Jason, it enables businesses like yours to integrate multiple systems and data across different applications, even devices or data sources. So you don't need to have just the application layer. You can use this at the data layer. The Integration Suite standard, for example, includes various additional services such as API management, open connectors, and capabilities to monitor, transform, and map this data in multiple fashions. So certainly it comes with a predefined integrations. I think last time that I checked was over 2,000 integration maps and APIs that will accelerate any integration between SAP but also non-SAP solutions. I think that Jason mentioned this, more than 11,000 customers today using Integration Suite, and we've been named a leader in the Gartner Magic Quadrant for Integration Platform as a Service. So certainly is SAP's strategy to connect all the applications in the ecosystem. Next slide, please. So we've been talking a little bit about SAP BTP, and I'm going to do a 30 seconds maybe overview of that. BTP is the foundation of SAP's strategy to develop any type of applications to cover your business processes and focusing in maybe 4 important areas. Accelerate your move to the cloud, helping you to create integrations and keeping the core clean of any SAP applications, integrate business processes, and have an unified data management strategy. So we provide, as I mentioned, hundreds of so services in the cloud that allows you to do extensibility, build applications, create integrated workflows, data management, data analytics, RPAs, and certainly integration suite. Next. So as part of the BTP technology platform and what we call the main 6 pillars, database, data integration, analytics and predictive planning, application integration, process automation, and application development and digital experiences, we have seen many of the Ariba customers or procure-to-pay customers using of these services, not just on the integration suite, as we are explaining today, but also in data management, creating analytics on top of Ariba and integrating this Ariba data with other ERP data or SAP ERP information, and creating also portals and applications with very easy to access user experiences in top of all these applications. Something that is important is you can deploy any of the BTP services in pretty much any of the hyperscalers. Julio, as far as I remember, I think that you guys have developed some functionality on BTP for Ariba. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, actually, we have actually quite a bit of functionality. We've created over 25 different applications that help in terms of increasing the efficiency, the adoption and governance for procure to pay. And so it integrates with all different aspects, by the way, of SAP's landscape and portfolio around procure to pay, especially Ariba, but also S/4HANA and Fieldglass and IBP.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah, and one thing I would add, Jaime, is, like an example, you mentioned in the previous slide, keep the core clean. And really what that means, like, for example, it's really hard to get data out of Ariba. And so a lot of customers have issues around reporting. And I know Ariba comes with various different visualizations, but rather than go to Ariba and say, hey, could you add this new kind of view of our vendors, with this particular way to track that vendor, and then, not seeing that change come up for years, or having to customize Ariba, keeping the core clean means that you have a platform like the business technology platform that provides an analytic tool, but also makes it easier to get that information out of Ariba so that you can report off of it. And Julio's going to talk about this as one of their offerings, but that's a gap, and it's not that Ariba has, it's not, we're not saying it's a weak product, but all applications, I mean, they do what they do, but they don't change. They're not as susceptible to change and customization. Whereas if you have a platform in place, like business technology platform, we can provide, bridges to those gaps that make it easier, for example, to get data out of Ariba, and then also creating your own analytics at a much faster speed than if you were trying to make that change within Ariba. So just wanted to mention that as an example.
Really good point, yeah. And we're going to talk a little bit about, in the commercial options, how can you consume BTP? Because one of the benefits of BTP is that we have a single contract where you could start using the credits for Integration Suite. But if you decide to extend or to create analytics report, you can start using the same type of contract, same type of credits for that. So that's another benefit of the BTP as part of the integrated contract. We call it CPA. Next, Julio.
Great.
Jason, do you want to talk a little bit about this?
Yeah, I'd love to. So kind of bringing this back to the ITK replacement kind of theme of our webinar. Like I said, I didn't want to get, we want to kind of tell it like it is. We want to kind of stay focused on point, but we felt like it was really important that you had a high-level overview of what BTP is, so that you can see where Integration Suite fits into that and how that can help you not just solve your integration migration needs, but also other needs like like analytics and getting insights from Ariba. But just to sum up the value of Integration Suite based on the options that we presented. So the first one here is being able to stay up to date with all the changes that happen within Ariba. So, making sure that you have all the right fields and that your the integrations that you create aren't broken when fixes or changes or updates are made to Ariba, that those trickle down into your integration strategy automatically. And that's where Integration Suite provides a huge value. And I know Huli is going to talk a little bit about that in just a second. The other is this multi-cloud support and better high availability. So if you think about, a desktop Java utility, which is what Ariba ITK is, by moving to Integration Suite, you'll actually be on in a much safer place in terms of protecting your integration investment with more of a solid kind of standard around high availability, and moving to the cloud and updating your approach to a more current standard. And then consolidating, simplifying your integration landscape. So as changes happen within your landscape, or if you have existing other SAP applications, Integration Suite makes a lot of sense. And I'm going to show you these kind of pre-built recipes that you get. But you implement Integration Suite once, and then you can reuse it very easily for many of your other integrations to SAP and non-SAP applications. So that's a huge benefit right there. I don't want to underestimate that. Then the next one is, and if you go with Standard Edition, is being able to take advantage of other business technology platform innovations like low-code API development, portal collaboration tools, and just many other options that we provide. Automation of tasks that are very manual today, analytics, data integrate, getting data out of Ariba, mixing that with your ERP data. So we have many recent innovations that by moving to Integration Suite, it becomes a springboard into providing even more value into your procurement landscape. So with that, let's go to the next slide. I want to turn it over to Julio to talk about some implementation options to help speed up your migration efforts into to get off of the Ariba ITK.
Okay, thank you very much, Jason and Jaime. So, please consider Convergent IS as your go-to services partner in order to be able to implement Implementation Suite and to be able to help solve the migration from Ariba ITK. So first, let's just let me say a few words in terms of what is Ariba ITK. Just a quick overview to better put into context what the Integration Suite will be doing. And then I'll talk about the service offerings that we have in order to be able to come in and actually effect the solution for you. The ITK, this is an older solution from Ariba. It was really meant to and designed to help move CSV-based files with information around master and transactional data from your ERP into the SAP Ariba Cloud solution for procurement. And it would do both upload and download of this information. Typically, this would be done as part of a batch upload download. Now, back then it was deployed in two different ways. It was either what's called ITK standalone, which was deployed right on the ERP itself, or it could be installed on SAP's NetWeaver process or orchestration. Either way, both of these were on-premise, and actually an issue that would arise is that every time there was, say, a quarterly update, you had to go and reinstall this adapter to take advantage of all the newest fields and newest documents that were being always created. And actually, it was those issues which led Ariba and SAP to actually move to what became known as the Cloud Integration Gateway and now Integration Suite Managed Edition. So because that moved the intelligence into the cloud, so that every time there was a change, an update, new document, new field, all customers were automatically upgraded and updated. So, by the way, of course, all of this was completely secure as well. Back then, the ITK was using shared secrets, certificates, as well as secure socket layer in order to be able to encode the information, not only the information itself, but also to secure it via transport as well. Now, there were two main components, and really, there was really one component that was actually mostly used. So there's the actual what's called a DB connector. This was designed in order to be able to extract the latest information out of your ERP into a CSV file, so that it could then be uploaded into Ariba. Though, truth be told, most of the time, customers wanted to come along and they created their own versions of the DB connector. So they would have full control over exactly what and how got extracted and how that CSV file was created. The other part of the tool was called the data transfer tool. And this is the part that the Integration Suite is really designed in order to replace, because this was the component that was typically the one that was most commonly deployed. Okay, so this is a command line tool. It was solely designed to take that CSV file and in the process of also uploading it into the Ariba solution in the cloud, as part of that whole process, that CSV file would then get converted into a series of documents in commercial XML, and so that they become part of the information that you had available to you and could be actioned upon within Ariba. All right. This is the part that not only was it most commonly used, and this is the part that the Integration Suite will then be replacing. Okay, so this is what we're going to be focusing on for the next few slides. Okay, so then that leads us to our first service offering. So basically, given that the data transfer tool was the most commonly used aspect, here we would be installing BTP Integration Suite. We'd of course work with customers in order to right-size the solution. We're heavily into design thinking with our app house, and so we would actually then work with the customers, understand their needs, and understand which level of Integration Suite would be best suited for them, whether that's basic or standard or what have you. Essentially, it consists of the following capabilities. We're really talking about 4 integration flows. Okay, so there are 2 for the Ariba Strategic Sourcing Suite, and also 2 for operational procurement applications. Okay, it's for the upload and download of information. By the way, since we're talking about Integration Suite, it can be batch, but it also can be real time, which also means that this is an additional benefit for those using Integration Suite over the old ITK. These iFlows, would also be in charge of being the upload and download of not only the transactional information, but also that master data. Okay, everything is done in a secure manner. And in fact, actually, from the on-premise, what we do is we just simply SFTP the information into the cloud, where it's taken over by the SAP Integration Suite, and then transported into the SAP Ariba applications, so they can be converted into the CXML documents, and so they can then be actioned upon by SAP Ariba and its applications. As I mentioned, it would be a collaborative service offering using design thinking and right size to the customer. So, but roughly speaking, what we're talking about, if we were to just kind of do a rule of thumb type of offering, it's around 40K. And then that would be a discussion with the customer in terms of what the actual final price would be based on what's right for them. Okay. In addition to just installing the integration suite, there's actually a lot more that can be included with the integration suite. Since BTP is so incredibly rich in terms of its capabilities, we can also add other feature functionality. One in particular would be something like analytics using SAP's Analytics Cloud. Since you're already transporting information back and forth and to the cloud or on-premise and all the updates, you can also then be updating your data warehouse cloud with information so that you can actually be able to report on end-to-end progress, performance metrics, or just simply the status, of all the different transactions that you have going at the same time. So our service offering number 2 would be to include all of that information as part of an analytics package, which we can then, of course, install. We have a whole bunch of pre-created reports that we have created in collaboration with SAP that go above and beyond what today's S/4HANA, Ariba, et cetera, are offering and that many customers have asked for. And then at the same time, we would work with the customers in order to create any tailored, customized reports that speak to their particular processes, their particular goals and needs. At the same time, as we touched upon before, Convergent has also created a series of applications which are wrapped up into our packaged offering called Rapid Vendor Portal, which also help in terms of increasing the operational efficiency of procure to pay through the use of guided processes, simple questions, and intuitive mobile user interfaces. We like to joke that so many of our customers have people out in the field in a truck, right, with just a handheld device, who perhaps in the oil and gas industry, they're just there to fix a pipeline. And we specialize in those kinds of situations in order to help our customers be able to be as efficient as possible. Okay, and so this is basically then a depiction of exactly that kind of offering, where similar to as before, you see offering 1 here, where we would actually have an SFTP server being able to upload that CSV file, make use of Integration Suite in order to be able to get it to Ariba. But at the same time, here we have offering 2 and offering 3, where we can implement a data warehouse cloud with SAC Analytics on top to be able to, in real time, be able to update all this information and be able to report on it in terms of status, performance metrics, what have you, or a series of, with the Rapid Vendor Portal offering, a series of applications that are mobile and that also help using a guided process or just simple questions to handhold customers through sometimes confusing procurement processes. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. At this point, I'm, tag teaming back to Jaime and Jason, who are going to talk to you about commercial options.
Great. Thank you, Julio. That was a great overview. Yeah, just so we definitely wanted to talk a little bit about the commercialization of pricing, so that you can get more of a feel for how much it might cost to kind of implement some of these services. Now, if we look at our kind of think back to our options, the standard edition for Integration Suite, which is to the right, we actually license this under what's called our Cloud Platform Enterprise Agreement, or CPEA. And the wonderful thing about CPEA is that you essentially buy these credits, and then the credits can be used for many different solutions within the business technology platform. So it's super flexible. There's I don't know, like 100 different SKUs or more BTP SKUs that you can use those credits towards including SAP Integration Suite. Now, if you want to procure a tenant to handle your integration, then that's about $45,000 ACV per year per tenant. And that comes with 10,000 messages. And these messages are used as a way to show the volume of communication between transferring files and messages between your different systems. There's also the other option that we presented was the basic edition. So this is that restricted capability, and essentially that's just one SKU and a set fee. There's no ability to kind of transfer whatever you spend there doesn't transfer to other SKUs. So it's very kind of limited. And so the basic edition for a tenant is about $10,000. Remember, this is for low volume, really low complexity. You're just doing some file transfers between systems. So basic edition, standard edition, and then in between, what we have is if you're not ready to kind of sign up for a 2 to 3 year contract for running the integration platform, you want to kind of dip your toes in the water, you haven't committed your budget yet, then you can essentially license standard edition as a pay-as-you-go. So it's a little more expensive, but allows you to go month to month on a per tenant basis. So the ACV, you can see what the ACV would end up being there. And then we also have, and we're going to show you this on the website when we kind of show you where to get more information. But you can actually go in and stand up a trial instance of SAP Integration Suite, and then actually try a lot of these integrations and kind of build your content out. And then when you're ready to go production, you can actually finalize a contract. But it's a 90-day trial instance that we have available. So I think that covers the licensing. Super flexible when you talk about the Cloud Platform Enterprise Agreement, but hopefully that gives you a little bit better idea of the cost. Now, real quick before we go on to the next slide and wrap up, if you're wondering about these kind of bundled transactions and the number of messages per month, just to give you an idea of costs there, we could do some sizing exercises with you, but to determine how many messages you're probably going to need. But we had a customer that actually added 1 million transactions a year. That 10,000 is actually per month, but it was in order to add like 1 million, so that'd be 100, a little less than 100,000 transactions per month. To their landscape, it was less than $1,000 per year to actually add additional messages. So don't get too worried about the sizing and the messages piece, because that's like really not a significant cost. You can scale pretty far out. So anyway, with that, let's move on to the next slide and go ahead and start to kind of close out what we've presented here.
Super. So thanks, Jason. I see the Boston Scientific slide up here. So I just want to take 1 minute, talk about an experience I had with a customer where they were also migrating from a legacy environment. And just 3 things to point out here with Boston Scientific. By going to the BTP Integration Suite, they realized significantly reduced TCO. And how they did this was because they had a single environment for integration now. And when they did their integrations, the tool was so much more powerful, the low-code environment, very graphic and visual. They were able to do their integration development in a fraction of the time that it previously took them with much less resource. They also found that the integration suite performed a lot better, where they were having, batch routines that had lots of latency and the loads took sometimes several hours. They were able to accomplish all their integration in a fraction of the time, making the information available much sooner for analysis, pretty much real time in most cases. And the third thing they found was that they had reduced license costs, because now they could use a single integration environment for all of their SAP and non-SAP integration. So it's a way to really have a simplified architecture. I'm still monitoring the chat here. And there was one question I want to answer from Herschel and a few folks out there that asked, hey, if I have a non-SAP environment and I'm currently using the ITK and we have existing middleware, can we use that to support this? And as Jason pointed out with his option 4 originally, yes, you absolutely can use your other middleware. but obviously that's not our software. We can't vouch for to support it. We provide our interfaces, our APIs, and your software has to use that, and you'd work with your third-party vendor to validate support. If you license IT, or if you license the integration suite through SAP, we can validate and support our software. So that's the difference there. And that's all I had. I'll go back to monitoring the Q&A. And Jason, if you had any more color, or Julio or Jaime, please chime in.
No, but I would, on the next slide here, I want to show you where some useful resources are. And if I could take the presentation rights real quick.
Or just show me or tell me where you want me to click.
Okay, so click on BTP Integration Suite main information.
Okay. Do you see my screen?
No, we're not seeing it. Might be easier if because I have all these links open actually.
Fantastic. All right, just give me a second.
Yeah.
Go right ahead.
All right, so here we go. Share the screen for just a second. Okay, so in the previous slide, there's a handful of links there, but I just want to kind of navigate you through these. So one of these is the main page, is our SAP Integration Suite technical. So we have the overview, and then if you go to this tab here, technical information, and you want to get more detailed information, we've got these tutorials, but if you go to view the documentation, there's some really good documents in here. Well, first of all, let me go back here. Notice that there's try it for free up here. So this is where you can start your 90-day trial and procure an instance. And then if you go to that technical documentation and you come down, you'll notice that there's a whole white paper on security, initial setup of the BTP cockpit, and using Integration Suite, so you can set up your tenant. You can request product details with an integration scenario. So essentially, there's different kind of pre-built scenarios that you can build out on your tenant, and it's really easy to kind of deploy these. And then the other thing I wanted to show you, one of the other links, is this right here. So within GitHub, you have this SAP integration toolkit. Actually, let me go back. You see these recipes here. So if you go look at this list of all the integrations that come with Integration Suite, Amazon, CI/CD, database connectivity, but then if you go down, you'll see SAP Ariba or SAP Business Network. You've got Concur, Fieldglass, SAP ERP. So there's a lot of these third-party integrations. So if I click on Ariba, it'll take you right down the page to some of these. So if you'll see here, SAP Ariba Integration Toolkit. So we have some specific pre-built, we call these iFlows, but they're basically just integration flows. And then you can see that there's these file transfer ones that are already pre-built. You can actually take these packages and deploy them in just a few clicks right to your trial instance that you've procured. So anyway, coming back to Julio, I'm going to turn it back over to you and stop sharing. Figure it out. There we go. Stop share. Okay, now let's go back to the presentation. I just want to point out a couple of those areas and how to navigate those technical pages on that resource slide.
Okay.
And see if there's anything else. The SAP Discovery Centers, really nice. If you go there, there's some kind of, you probably just want to explore it, but you can search for integration and then, or Ariba, and actually see some pre-built kind of business scenarios. So anyway, so we've presented most of these links here. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. Julio, I'll turn it over to you.
Yep. So thank you everyone for your attendance and for your time in learning about how the integration suite can help you with your BTP IT, with your ITK needs, and being able to then migrate in the future. If you want to get your Ariba ITK deployment assessed and have a conversation about the right size option for you, please feel free to contact us. You can use the QR code right here to book an appointment. And let's have a conversation about what is the best option forward. And we thank you for considering SAP's BTP Integration Suite for your integration needs, and especially for Ariba and the ITK. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Jason and Colin.
Thanks, everybody. And we'll send a copy of this deck out along with the Q&A.
Thank you.